Alright, here we go. NET-113. You would think this would be Introduction to Computers, because we're talking about similar things. Today's the 15th, 2016. We are in week 12. Alright, so I started off today, we started talking about actually the physical layer. We talked about that first. I talked about bits moving, and then I asked the students what key things in the physical layer about these bits, and students say, well, there's the MAC address, the media access control, that physical address that marks each machine. And where is that physical address? Well, I said it's in the network interface card. Now you say, a card? Well, you know, back in the day, we added cards to computers to put them on networks. Now that's built right in. But in there, you know, in that motherboard now, where you have that RJ45 jack configured so that that can take the information coming down and put it out on the wire, if it's an RJ45. Or that could be your connection to Wi-Fi. So it'd be like an antenna. Something where this MAC address is tied to that. Then we talked about the data link and how these things work together to connect. And I showed some router stuff already at this point. Then we moved into what we're really working on now, the network layer. We talked about IP address in a routing table. It could be put in statically, or it could be there dynamically. Okay? And I didn't really mention this earlier. It could be directly connected also. This comes later, like next year. We finished off talking about these upper layers, and we talked about transport layer, UDP, TCP, and the ports. And then I talked a little bit about, you know, setting up a session, application layer, and we have our app up here. Alright, I want to keep moving. We did the configuration, we built it sort of from scratch. So we started here at the router and the PC, and we got a PC so it could ping the default gateway. Okay, so we just set up the addressing and so forth. This was one of the last things we did today. We didn't get that complete, but we want to be able to have a wireless access point, be able to also allow a PC to communicate in. And we're already running into a few issues, but we're going to see. On Thursday, we'll see if we can get that to work. So we started here. Then we configured these WAN connections, okay, so that these routers could communicate. So this router could communicate here, and this one could here. So we could ping across here. And then our next step was up to here. So we did the addressing for in between there. Here was the addressing for those WAN connections. And we had to then take care of the DCE, the clock rate. Then we were able to get, so our PCs could get all the way out to here. So within that, we had to do a couple things. First of all, in order to ping this spot here from down here, this router had to know where to send that information back. So we had to put a static route in saying send the information through this interface back down to this router, which then could send it back down to the PC. So we put in a static route saying if you get this network with this mask, send it out this interface to this next hop. We'll learn more about that later on. And then in the routers also we set up default routes. If you get an address you don't have, send it out this interface towards this next hop. And so we put default routes in all these routers. So this one would default this way, this one would default this way, and this one defaults this way. And eventually this defaults out to the internet. So let's review. We'll use another page here. Same thing here. Got this PC to ping here, then to here, and then be able to go through the WAN and get to this router, and then this router was able to communicate out here. Again, these routers have default routes, so if you're looking for an address, let's say out here towards the internet, that's not quite in the internet yet, towards the internet, these routers then would have a default to send it up to here. This router would have a default to send it to here. Same thing here. Send it up into there. So actually when we got done, we should have, I don't know how close they checked it, we should have had connectivity here and connectivity here and back up between all those, simulating these WANs in between here. Alright, and then we finished up looking at some of the routing tables in the routers. That's it for today.